Welcome into K-State Online. I am Mason Voth. That is Drew Galloway, and we are here the day after the 2024 college football season has officially come to an end, and K-State now has the very next game on the college football schedule. They will face Iowa State in a little over 7 months, 2 days from now. The Wildcats will be in Dublin, Ireland, and they will be facing Iowa State in the Aer Lingus College Football Classic, which, Drew, I don't know if you're aware of this, but probably a good time to remind everybody that you can go to cats2ireland.com if you're trying to get on the wagon of people that are going to be taking flights from all pockets of the U.S. to go watch the Cats play in Dublin, Ireland. And if you're thinking to yourself, man, that sounds complicated. How am I ever going to be able to get this figured out? What should I do? I've got the hookup for you here. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to join your Wildcats in Ireland as they kick off the 2025 football season against Iowa State and the Aer Lingus College Football Classic. And you're going to do it by securing your game tickets and hospitality packages, as well as travel, through cats2ireland.com. What that will get you: all-inclusive travel packages, premium game tickets, luxury hotel accommodations, an exclusive K-State welcome experience, and a whole lot more. Game day hospitality packages include premium in-stadium hospitality with food and drinks and premium game tickets. That way, I don't know what an Irish concession stand is going to look like. So I think if you go through Cats to Ireland, they're probably going to have some food that you recognize, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to be getting out of my comfort zone. It's just the easiest way to do it. Make sure you get everything taken care of, one stop, and you can do it at cats2ireland.com. And I believe we've got an Ireland fun fact on tap.
Yeah, I've been saving this one. This is kind of an elite fun fact. I need to do more research, so this will probably be like a multiple part fun fact. But I learned over the holidays that my wife's family has a castle in Ireland. So I need to figure out, number one, I need to figure out where it is. And then number two, figure out if we're going to go see it, like what the plan is there.
Is also, it like run down or active castle? What's the state of it?
I believe it is an unactive. Like it's not active. The other thing that I would add, there's a thread about it on the board. I saw people posting about it on Twitter last night. You are an absolute sicko and freak if you are betting on the K-State Iowa State game right now while the rosters are not complete.
Yeah, I mean, I did see immediately. Cole Manbeck was the first one that I saw posted that FanDuel had posted lines for K-State Iowa State next year in Dublin, which I believe the Cats were 1.5 point favorites. So to all of you idiots out there making your way too early top 25s and putting Iowa State like 1,000 spots ahead of K-State, you are just that. You are an idiot. Let's, for the fun of it, Drew, let's just go through some early lines here that FanDuel already has up for next college football season. That includes...
This is not gambling advice. This is, if you are making bets on these games right now, I think you should probably call the hotline.
Okay, so the first one that they got up there, Iowa State at K-State, not at K-State. I know some people wish it was. The Cats -1.5. The over-under in the game, 49.5 points. If you think about it, the last two games that these teams have played have gone over that number. So, and one of those was in terrible weather. So, even if you think it's going to rain and be a little wet over there in Ireland, these teams are built for it.
How in the hell do you have a total for the game already?
I don't know, but if you're smart enough or bold enough, there might be some money to win here. Just like this one, August 30th of this year, Baylor hosting Auburn. I don't know. That could be a neutral site game, but it says Auburn at Baylor. The Bears are underdogs slightly in this game, Drew. So it is if you want Baylor money line plus 100, jump on the Sawyer Robertson wagon. And Baylor just got an Auburn transfer quarterback this offseason in Walker White. So they probably have all of the plays.
Walter White.
Yeah, don't get those guys confused. I don't think Baylor has a quarterback cooking up meth. Can't confirm as we know, there's some shady legal history down in Waco. So I'm not going to say that it's not happening. It's likely not happening for Walker White. So you like the Bears here? Because I do. I mean, we know Auburn, perennial frauds.
Yeah.
Get Bears plus 1.5.
Auburn's a team that are on the way too early top 25s. And I'm like, how in the world do you have them top 15 right now?
Another one we got for you. That opening weekend, week 1, the losers open their season on August 30th. The winners open their season on August 23rd. I just want to make that clear. Notre Dame, the first losers of the college football season this year, they don't lose. They go to Miami to face the Canes. 2.5-point favorites for Notre Dame in that game against Carson Beck, as Notre Dame will have a different quarterback than Riley Leonard.
Like Carson Beck, he might not be able to play week 1, I'd imagine, if he's having UCL surgery. But the other thing that's like a sicko thing that these sports books are doing is I saw that Ohio State, Michigan already has a line out for like next November.
Well, do you remember? Yeah. That one, minus 8.5 for the Buckeyes right now.
Like, are we just throwing crap at the wall right now?
Well, K-State KU, if you remember, they had like an early line going into this year. So they wherever they can try and get that money from people, it makes sense on the Ohio State Michigan thing. You're gonna have a ton of people doing it, and then if you can kind of steal the high of Ohio State winning the national championship to get some people to buy into it, then maybe that's the place to go. The perfect segue here, because I was going to talk about this today with you. The season ends, and Will Howard is a national champion. Ohio State takes down Notre Dame in the national championship last night. Will ends up being the offensive MVP, which was well-deserved because he was making plays, some serious stones on the throw to Jeremiah Smith that basically sealed it, that led to a field goal that was very nice for some of us out there. And what did you make of Will Howard and the Buckeyes last night?
Yeah, Will Howard has had a really good season, but especially in the playoffs. He's been in good situations. Chip Kelly kind of folded the game a little bit until that deep shot to Jeremiah Smith on the call, because it looked like they were just playing really conservative and kind of daring Notre Dame to stop them and then score again on Ohio State's defense. But Will Howard played really, really well, was really accurate, was getting Ohio State into the right situations, and Ohio State was getting him in the right situations. I mean, no offense to Will, but I think I could have made the first throw to Jeremiah Smith for a touchdown. So there are a lot of things that kind of go from that game. Like, I think K-State and Will Howard both won in the transfer out, but also just really happy for Will Howard because, as we've seen pretty much since the game went final, I think just about every K-State player that has played with Will Howard posted something about congratulations to him. K-State had some coaching staff members do it as well. So really cool to see. But also, I don't think that means something bad for K-State going forward, because there won't be a lot of situations where a K-State player will get to be on like the best college football roster of the entire season.
Yeah, one of the most talented teams in recent years in college football, because they are loaded everywhere. To be able to step in, and we said it at the time, Will Howard was the perfect type of quarterback for Ohio State going into it. And obviously, and I posted in a thread today, it makes me laugh. There was and it's true because this is how it's going to work out. But, everybody was like, oh, Will Howard made himself a lot of money last night or, over the course of this year. And that's true. But Will Howard, the player that I watched throw the ball for Ohio State this year, was no different than the Will Howard that I watched, in 23 and the end of 22 at K-State. The difference was that he was able to throw it to a bunch of receivers that are going to play in the NFL, to really good running backs, and just everything else that goes with being at Ohio State. And all these NFL scouts are supposed to be so good and so smart. And it seems like it took Will Howard going to Ohio State to kind of get that recognition, which I get, higher profile or whatever. But I think the evaluation would have been, I think Will Howard personally, I think he probably would have gotten drafted if he had gone out last year. It wouldn't have been maybe as high as it's going to be now. And obviously he got an experience that you can't pass up. I'm sure in the NIL era made a really good chunk of change to go be the quarterback at one of the, 5 most impressive college football programs in history and win them a national championship. Like, Will Howard got the absolute most out of his 5 years in college football. And he certainly earned it on the back end for how crappy the first 2 years were for him. So it is.
And made the right decision because remember, back in January, it was coming out of USC and Ohio State. Like, he made the right decision on which coach that he ended up pouring his faith into.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So I think it is interesting now, the fallout, because I think there are two sides to all of this where you have people that it's like, okay, chill out just a little bit on, like, K-State didn't win a national championship last night. You can be happy for Will Howard, and I think he should be celebrated. But, like, there's to a certain extent, it's like, all right, let's settle down here. Like, it's getting a little weird. It's going to make it easy for some people to poke fun of you. Then there's the opposite end of it, of people that act like this is a bad thing for K-State. I don't think this is a bad thing for K-State. It might be a bad thing for college football as a whole, because K-State, they're not the only ones in this situation. Obviously, like Duke last season, they lost Riley Leonard. They probably would have liked to have had him this year over Malik Murphy, I would imagine. And there are so many other examples of it, even though it was Oklahoma's fault. Although Oklahoma's kind of a good example here, because very similar situations. Oklahoma wanted to go to Jackson Arnold, and so Dylan Gabriel was shown the door, and he walks out of it, goes to Oregon, who was the best team through 13 games of the college football season this year. And he has a great year, is successful, and obviously Oklahoma tanked, and unfortunately for them, Jackson Arnold was not very good. And K-State was in a similar boat where you think the future of your program is right there, and you're moving on to him. You got to do it just the way that things are set up. And for K-State, it worked out quite a bit better than Oklahoma. The other thing, though, that I would mention in all of that is the Oklahoma situation is still a little different, because I go back to thinking that Avery Johnson was probably the better option at quarterback this year than Will Howard, based on what their skill sets are. So that's the other side of this coin that I don't like seeing people play, is K-State passed up on a quarterback that won the national championship. There's a very real chance that if you flip Avery Johnson and Will Howard around, that Avery Johnson's a national champion quarterback this year.
Yeah. Bud Elliott is the one that I think of the national media that really pushed back on that narrative, saying that, like, if you flipped it and Ohio State had Avery, Ohio State probably wins the national championship and is probably the favorites to win it next season as well.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think that this was truly a good 50-50 split, and I think that both sides come out of it feeling really good about themselves, and I think that they should. The other thing that I would say that makes it a little bit different from Oklahoma and K-State, and what I think makes it harder, and why you see more people at K-State like celebrating what Will Howard has done in comparison to like what Oklahoma fans did with Dylan Gabriel, is Will Howard spending the 4 years at K-State. Like, he traditionally would have been out of eligibility anyway, and I think that that's kind of where this kind of gets into the point where I don't think that this is a bad thing for K-State either. But Will Howard being kind of like that homegrown, like you feel like he's a K-Stater, where like Dylan Gabriel transferred into Oklahoma and then transferred out of Oklahoma. So I think that that's kind of why you see a lot of K-State fans kind of celebrating his career, and why I think that even more K-State fans gravitated towards Will Howard than even Kobe Savage, because Kobe Savage only spent 2 seasons at K-State, where Will Howard spent 4.
Well, yeah, Will Howard and the fans certainly went through about everything that you can, good and bad, at K-State. Now, for the fans, they experienced it, but they also gave out the bad in some ways to Will Howard. And for Will, like, he earned some of the bad that came his way. Maybe not all of it, but certainly, he did and went through it, and he made it out on the other side better for it. He delivered for K-State, and then obviously was able to deliver for Ohio State. And you look at, that gap year between doing what he did to win a Big 12 championship for K-State and then going to win the national championship for Ohio State. That year in between kind of highlights two things where he didn't have all of the available weapons to kind of reach his peak last year or do what he did in 22 and then even this year because, he had Malik Knowles, he had Cade Warner, guys that you trust throwing the ball to. And then last year, obviously, Deuce Vaughn wasn't around either. That's pretty significant and helpful. The defense lost some pieces. He went back to a position where, on a much greater scale, Ohio State was built like K-State was in 2022, where you had two running backs that you trusted to use. You had a lot of reliable receivers. The defense was loaded up. Jack Sawyer turned into the best defensive player in the country over the last month. He finally lived up to like his rating that he got out of high school and everything. Like everything fell into the right spot.
Caleb Downs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think everything was the same. And I told people, like, will this last month, the entire playoff run for Will Howard, that was the best he's played in his career since the end of October into the Big 12 title game for K-State in 2022. Like, everything that I saw this last month, it looked a lot like the Will we saw there. And I don't know if it took more time to get to that point fully, because obviously there were moments where Ohio State would have liked it a little bit more. Although I'd put the Michigan game on Chip Kelly for being an idiot, and probably for Ryan Day being just jinxed now by that game. But Will Howard had a phenomenal season. Everybody won in it, and I don't think anybody should think it's a bad thing for K-State specifically. And it's a good thing for Will Howard. It's a good thing for everybody. And it was fun to get to see him pull that off last night. And now, guess what? Ohio State doesn't have a quarterback that they're confirmed on. They got a lot of options in that room, but they don't know who. K-State, they've got their quarterback coming back next year. They've got their answer, and they've got him for a year after that, depending on how things go. So everybody won. I saw a couple people afterwards trying to act like it was some big revelation or hot take that both sides won in this. It's like, we knew the second this happened last winter that this was, everybody's getting the best of both worlds here. And it worked out for both sides. Obviously, K-State would have liked to have finished a little stronger. We know that there were reasons why they didn't. And now they'll just try and go win one this year. And you win it this year, you try and win it again next year. Because, again, you got 2 years of Avery Johnson eligibility left, as long as you can make it worth his time to stay. So there you go. That's the piece on the national championship. So national championship over. We don't have to worry about the 2024 season anymore. We worry about 2025, which also coincides with the start of the spring semester at K-State. And we got to see some of the class of 25 guys arrive. They are in starting class, and they'll get ready to go through this process and building up, be here for spring ball. So, Drew, what can you tell everybody about the class of 2025 commits that have arrived and what this process is going to look like for them now as they start their college careers at K-State, but also now that they'll get some football stuff coming their way?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about that. Now the college football season lasts all the way until when the spring semester starts. But so we went through a rundown of all the early enrollees during the signing day and then the following days after signing day. But one name was added actually pretty recently, and it's Darian Whitaker from Omaha, originally from Baltimore, and he went to Boys Town High School in Omaha. Getting him on campus early, I think, is huge because he's somebody that I think has a sky high potential. So getting him to be able to be on campus and go through winter workouts already and kind of get to go through class is fun. I saw some of the early enrollees yesterday at Target, just randomly, just happened to be there at the same time, and then saw some others as well. So right now they're going through their first days of class. So there's two sides to this coin. There are the guys like Gunnar Maldonado and Gabe Powers and Jaron Bradley who, are on campus right now. They've already taken college classes before. They kind of know what to expect, and they're here to really just kind of get to work and really hone in on their craft and also go to class. Then you have the guys like Darian Whitaker, Noah King, Dylan Villarreal, Dylan Duff. They've never gone to college classes before. So they're kind of getting their feet wet in classes and also have like positional meetings. They have winter workouts as well and kind of juggling all that while some of them are still 17 years old. So it's kind of a little bit of a mix of both, and why it's not the worst thing, I don't think, to have like some of these older transfer guys that are coming in at the same time as as the high school guys, to have them kind of intermingle and be like, hey, so this is kind of like what this class is about. Like, I haven't been here before, but this is kind of what you can expect. Like, this is what a schedule looks like. Because for a lot of these guys, like, if I was 17 and I was thrust into this position, I would be like way overwhelmed right now.
Well, and it's just also the time management aspect that I was obviously not very good at in college because I didn't put a lot of work into school when I wasn't in class. They have football, Division I football on top of it. So, what does the football side of this look like? When does all that start to creep in, and how will this start to impact their day-to-day lives? And then also what it means for the guys that are here versus the guys that won't get here until the summer.
Yeah, I think that the actual like football workouts will begin probably like next week or in the next few weeks. And this is all just strength and conditioning. This is why the strength coaches are some of the more underrated staff members, because they get to see you all the time. The coaching staff doesn't get to see you all the time. And then as for what it looks like between now and like you arriving in June, you're getting the playbook now. You're getting to work out at probably a better facility that you had than you had in high school. You're on a nutrition plan now that you probably weren't in high school. You are really going up against the best right away and kind of seeing where you are and having your whole kind of process on how you go about things. It's probably going to be turned upside down because you're not stepping on campus. If you're a high schooler right now, you're probably not stepping onto campus and being the best guy at your position like you had been your entire life. And I think that that's kind of where the maturing process comes from. And then you're obviously like in the weight room and you're working out and you're getting bigger, because that's, I think, where the biggest difference between a spring enrollee and then the guys that come in the summer is that you really get to see some of these guys really transform themselves in that spring leading up to the summer.
I think it's kind of fun to see all the guys that come in, and we'll get an idea way later on what maybe the development looks like for them. But Dylan Duff is one of them, the quarterback. Seems like traditionally you want to get the quarterback for sure in.
Yes.
What is the importance of having the quarterback come in? Because to me, it's we know how much eligibility these guys have. Typically, you're going to have 5 seasons, basically, one where you redshirt and 4 more after that.
That's
It's kind of like
typically 5.
Yeah, well, that's true. It is finally back to typically 5. No longer is it typically 6 or 7 or whatever you want it to be. But this is kind of like stealing an extra semester in there to where you can get them up to speed. So what will this process look like for Dylan Duff?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It is just stealing an extra semester. So he'll be really thrust into the playbook and learning the terminology that Connor Riley and Matt Wells use. And also just learning from like Avery Johnson and Blake Barnett and Jacob Knuth about how to prepare yourself and how to kind of get your body ready. Because at the quarterback position, especially, like, you need to prepare like you can play at any moment. So I think that it's all about, for all of these guys, especially quarterback, how to, number one, be a college student, but also how to become a college football player and how to prepare like one. And then as somebody like in Dylan Duff's shoes, you're also trying to build a rapport with some of the receivers, tight ends, running backs that are already on campus as well. And if you can do that with the guys in your class too, it just helps you and boosts you up another level.
Yeah. So you talked about Darian Whitaker as kind of the, oh, hey, look, he's here early. That wasn't anticipated. Is there anybody else that their early arrival comes with any interesting notes or things that you think people should know?
Uh, I would say kind of along the same lines as Darian Whitaker, and that this isn't like a surprise, but it's fun to me to see like the guys that played high school basketball up until like the last possible day that they could stop, and then enrolled at K State. Like Darian Whitaker was actually one of those where he played basketball for a little bit this season. Larry Porter played basketball a little bit this season, broke the 1,000-point mark at his high school, and then came to K State.
We call that the Cam Ward. He
Yeah,
got his record and then got out.
yes, got the record, then got out. So then you also kind of look at guys that maybe are in line to potentially play early, like Logan Bartley. I think that there's potentially a role that Montario Elston could play next season as kind of like a change of pace or as a return kind of guy. He's already on campus. Larry Porter's a guy that there's plenty of playing time at receiver right now. Nothing is a guarantee. There's a chance that he could play next season. So there's guys that are here early that I think could make an impact. And I think that those are the guys that you really want to get on campus first, because you want to get your guys that you think, okay, this is a guy that might not redshirt. So let's kind of see what he does during the spring and during the winter. And then we kind of go about that from there. Like that is arriving early and enrolling early, I think, is one of the reasons that Jace Brown was able to play as a true freshman, where somebody like Trace Spivey, his true freshman season, didn't get on the field as much. And I think that being on campus earlier for Brown probably helped him more in the long run.
So Jace Brown is obviously a prime example. A couple of years ago, it came out that last half of the 2023 season and did some great things. We know that Zayshawn Rich was the most impressive freshman in terms of how much time he got on the field last year. Was he in early?
He arrived in the summer, which made it even more impressive.
Wow,
Like
yeah.
him and Jacob Parrish have both gone as a summer guy and ended up not redshirting as a freshman. But everybody's journey through college football is so different. And I think that that's what everybody still needs to know, is that nothing is linear in how your growth comes as a college football player. But if you can get that extra semester, and especially for the younger guys, my recommendation would be to try and load up on as many classes as you can in this first semester while you're still like learning how to be a college football player and a college student. That way you can kind of have as many credits as you can. And then in the fall, you could take like a lighter class load and then kind of load up again in that next spring.
Well, that's look. That's I wish I would have kind of done my college life a little bit different in terms of how I schedule classes. Strictly by the way that I scheduled my classes, it led to me failing the only class of my college career because I tried to cut some corners and it did not go very well. So that was a fun conversation to have with my dad and be like, yeah, I didn't pass this class. So I got one mulligan there, and fortunately that was enough. And then after that point, I kind of realized just how easy college could be as long as you gave a little bit more effort than what I was accustomed to doing.
I came in with enough classes that the most hours that I ever took in a semester was 14.
Yeah, I mean, I was for the most part good there. I just scheduled like an idiot. I had one semester. People will laugh, but anybody that ever took it knows how difficult it is. I had a semester where math for elementary school teachers was my only class on like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays were loaded. I had like my TV class, and then I had like an hour break in between there before I had to go to macroeconomics, the class that I failed. Mainly because that's that longer day, hour and a half classes or whatever. So right after I had my what was like professional writing, I think it was, that I had to go to. And I had to show up in that class. Like I couldn't get away with not showing up there. And so I was just like, well, lesser of two evils. I'm going to skip macroeconomics. Probably like 60% of the time I didn't go to that class at best. And then it, came back to bite me when I missed passing the class by like 1%. I was like, oof, that sucks. So I was at every class when I retook it, except for when I skipped to go to Royals games. I did that twice. But I made up for it. I made it through. I got my degree. I don't have 3 of them like my wife does. I only have 1. In our basement, we have our degrees up in like frames or whatever, and there's 4 of them. There's 2 and then 2. And so then people would come in and probably think like, oh, 2 each. You guys are both really smart. And then they get up there and they're like, oh, 1 for Mason, 3 for his wife. Wow, way to go.
Macroeconomics also not my strong suit. I got a C in macroeconomics. So don't come on here asking for economic questions from us.
Yeah, don't ask any questions that are related to financial stuff with me. I have gotten better about saving money as I've turned into a real human adult, though. So as a kid, I would not have expected that to be the case. But yes, that's just good advice for anybody in college. Schedule wisely. Don't load up on one day, especially when I didn't skip class a lot early on, and then you start skipping one, it became really easy to do it. So that was not great for me. All right, before we finish up here, tomorrow night, 8:00, K-State on the road at Baylor. The Cats, the Bears, they're going to be playing down in Waco. You and I think, feel the same way about this game. We might be stupid, but we think K-State's going to show up and play a tight one with the Bears down at it's not the Farrell Center anymore.
Foster
Pavilion. There you go. Yes, Foster Pavilion will host the Cats and the Bears on ESPNU. I would actually, I don't know, ESPNU.
I would rather this game be on ESPN Plus as my hot take.
We'll be watching this in standard definition tomorrow night, probably. All right, so if we both think it's going to be close, what makes you think that this game is close?
Yeah, I just think that this is going to be a close game because I'm not overly sold on Baylor. Like we talked before we started recording, I think the metrics are a little bit too high on them for what Baylor is good at and what they are bad at, because what they are bad at, they are awful at. So for K-State to make this a close game, I did keys to the game. So here's your preview if you don't want to actually read what I wrote.
Perfect.
The first thing would be K-State has to take the right threes. Like I think that they are taking a little bit too many without good passing involved and kind of trying to create for guys that don't create. And this is important because Baylor is actually a worse 3-point defensive team than K-State is. Baylor is ranked number 349 in the country in 3-point defense. So you can really take advantage of that. And if you can make shots and you're taking the right shots, you can beat Baylor. The number 2 thing that I put down was dominate the free throw line. Baylor, again, somehow has a worse free throw rate than K-State and is much worse in defensive free throw rate. K-State's defensive free throw rate is really good. It's top 50 in the country. Baylor is in like the 270s in defensive free throw rate. You can get to the free throw line, and I did some digging. I know, shocking for me when it comes to like some of this stuff. But Baylor and their losses this year have gotten pummeled at the free throw line. I think that UConn had like a 70% or a 70 as their free throw rate. Iowa State had 47 as their free throw rate in the game that they played. And then the last thing is just value the ball. Baylor's one good thing that they do on defense is force turnovers. K-State has been a little bit up and down on turnovers. Only had 5 on Saturday in Allen Fieldhouse. So you'd think that they would probably have about the same at Foster Pavilion because it's not like that place is really as intimidating as Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah, you would think that you're going to be able to probably have a little bit of a sleepier venue than Allen. And I just think the way that K-State's kind of moving along here, there's reason to be encouraged. You get a team that is playing some weak basketball right now, like Baylor. And the whole Tang Drew thing, for whatever reason, Jerome Tang has it pretty easy over Scott Drew. I think that K-State shows up, gives them a pretty good game. And I'm excited to see how David Castillo kind of builds off of what he did over the weekend in Allen, where he played a lot of minutes. He did some things offensively and defensively that were nice. I think it'd be interesting to see it take a step forward. Are you bold enough to call a K-State win here, or just, hey, it's close, and then we'll reevaluate when the Cats come home to face West Virginia over the weekend?
I'll say that it'll be close going to the final media timeout, but I'm not bold enough to pick a K-State win yet. Like, another thing that we talked about before we started recording again is I'm really interested to see what that spread is. If it is the 14 that Bart Torvik has it at, I would probably pound K-State.
All right, there you go. Drew likes the Cats to cover. Yeah, Ken Palm has it right around that same spot too, 79-66 for Baylor. It could happen. It obviously could, but I don't know. Baylor's not really pummeling teams right now. Kind of strange. They did it to Cincinnati of all teams.
Baylor is not good enough right now to be pummeling teams.
No, they went to OT to beat Arizona State, and then they lost to Arizona last week, and then over the weekend they blew an 8-point lead at halftime against TCU, which I just can't imagine blowing a lead like that at home to that TCU team that we've seen so far. But hey, look out. The Frogs are trying to play some better basketball because they beat BYU the weekend before, but they also had a loss to Utah mixed in there. So kind of tough to make sense of what the Big 12 is right now, other than the fact that it's wildly disappointing. And you only have two teams that are really, really good at the top in Iowa State and Houston, and then some others that are all right. We'll kind of see how it plays out. And then a lot of bad beneath that. But yes, we'll have to keep an eye on that tomorrow, see where K-State falls. But I'm with you. I think it'll be close, and it's just going to come down to so many of the different factors that we talked about yesterday in the Sunday show of what is this guy doing? What do we think here? What do we think there? There's a lot to it. And Drew, just so you're aware, there is a line posted. FanDuel has Baylor minus 12.5 right now. So yeah, K-State plus 610 on the money line if you like the Cats to sneak a win.
I would like K-State on the 12.5. Who knows? I might get a little crazy and throw in a little money line bet.
Yeah, that feels like a good one to like toss in with some like heavy favorites on like a parlay or something, and then just put $5 or whatever and have some fun. Have some fun with the Cats though, because I think this, as everybody probably hopes, it was something that turned the corner for them in Allen on Saturday, where they got in a hole early, they fought back, they hung in there. And now you just kind of hope to see some of these other pieces start to come through. And I think that there is the opportunity that it happens. And Baylor is a really good kind of vulnerable team to go to battle and see if any of that is true. So we'll get our first look at that tomorrow night.
I would also add, too, before we wrap it up, to say if K-State was able to score kind of at will on KU Saturday, they should be able to score on Baylor.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true, because the Bears defense has not been their friend over the last couple of years. That's gone sharply downhill in terms of where they look defensively. And there's so much that's fascinating about the Baylor thing and where they've gone since they won the national championship. I can only imagine what the conversations would be like if we covered Baylor coming off of that and analyzing the last couple of seasons. But yeah, they aren't the same team that they were at one point. I mean, they're 58th in defensive efficiency this year. They were 72nd last year, 107th the year before that. And then you go and look the 2 years prior. So when they got bounced in the NCAA tournament by North Carolina, they were 13th. And then the year that they won the national championship, they were 22nd, mixed in there with the fact that they had one of the best offenses in the country. They still like to try and play offense. They like to shoot the ball like crazy because they've still been towards the top there. They're still a top 20 team this year, but the defense has just gotten really, really bad. And this K-State team, they get a couple threes to fall. They're doing everything else better on offense right now, at least one game. I mean, we can't shy away from the fact that they got walloped by Houston and the offense for both teams looked crappy again in the game against Texas Tech. But it was encouraging the way they played against KU. And now Baylor is a very good opportunity. If you're going to do something on the road, they might give you the chance. So we'll see. We'll find out about it tomorrow night. And then we'll have the reaction right here on K-State Online immediately following the Cats and the Bears. So a lot in this Tuesday show. We'll be back again tomorrow. We'll have some other football stuff to get into. And then everybody can settle in, watch K-State 8 o'clock tomorrow night against Baylor. And then the everything else that we'll recap with it. And plenty of other stuff going on right now over at KSO. So head over to On3. Check that out as well. You can get some of the final thoughts from how K-State played against KU. Also, Drew has a fresh commit watch that went up today. So he's got some thoughts on what might happen next in K-State football recruiting, because it's been, over a week since we've gotten anything there. Could something be on the horizon? Drew lets everybody know in commit watch, and a lot more coming your way too. So head over to K-State Online and On3 for all that. For Drew Galloway, I'm Mason Voth. Thanks for watching K-State Online.